Assemblywoman JC here to talk to us. I'm wondering that for the first question to both of you is, how did you get into public service? I think our clients would be so interested to hear how you came to this place.
Somehow I knew he was going to do that to me. First of all, let me thank you for inviting us, Audrey. I love this space. Don't you like this space? I mean, there's something about a circular room that brings people together, I think. How did I get involved in this? It's a very long story, so I won't try to tell the whole story. But basically, it had to do with the fact that when I was in high school, I started volunteering. And I liked working with people. And I had a younger brother who had a disability, and I grew up literally fighting people because they made fun of him and they didn't take the time to get to know him. And he had a lot of very special qualities. And I miss him to this day. He was 10 years younger than me. And I think through him, really, I felt that everybody needs an advocate. And that's how I developed my role. I started being an advocate for people who needed them. It continued when my kids, I had 3 kids, and when they started public school, I realized that some kids were doing really well and other kids needed more help, and their parents needed more help. And so I got involved, and I eventually ran for the school board here in South Orange, Maplewood. And from there, I was asked to join Senator Cody and Assemblyman McKeon to join their team in 2007 in the legislature, and there I am. And I'm continuing. I like to think of myself as an advocate for people, for all people. And being in the legislature does give me that opportunity.
Well, let me also thank everyone here at JESPY House for inviting us to this wonderful, wonderful space. As Assemblywoman JC says, it's very, very nice and comfortable and intimate, and really brings like the family together, right?
Yeah.
So I got into politics through my family. My father and my uncle were political activists as young men in the North Ward of Newark, and subsequently they migrated to the south side of Newark. And my uncle ran for Newark City Council in the 60s, and he wasn't successful. And my father had been involved in politics as well, and he ran for Essex County Freeholder and was successful, and went on to be a Newark City Councilman, and then the first African-American congressman from the state of New Jersey. And I followed suit because the work that my father had done in his congressional district, the state and around the world, really made me proud, and I wanted to be like my dad. So I followed him into public life. But prior to that, I worked for Essex County Regional Services, which was a supplementary service for school districts, where I first met Assemblywoman JC, because she was on the board as the member from Maplewood, South Orange. Right. And at that time, I was in the transportation department, and my responsibility was special needs transportation. And so that's where I really cut my teeth and learned how important it was to be helpful, and really created a name for myself and my ability to tackle problems between school districts and parents having issues around transportation. And then, because I was good at that, it allowed me to feel that I had something to offer the larger community And so that's when I ran for public office. But it was really my work at Essex County Regional that led me to believe that I had something to offer the larger community. And so that's how I got into politics, just basically following my family and the work that I had done prior to going into public life. I didn't know if I didn't always want to do it. People tell me, but you know, in the back of my mind, I guess it was always there. And like I said, wanting to be like my dad was very important to me. So that's how I got into politics.
You should know that our clients have formed an advocacy group several months ago. We've been meeting with a lot of legislators over the past.
Part of the resist movement?
Yeah.
Hope so.
Yeah, we've been putting together a long list, and we're working our way through. I think we've been to over a dozen legislative offices already.
That's great.
Letter writing campaigns, and our parents and families have been involved. That's been great. You know, they're also constituents. They care about politics. They are registered voters for the most part, and we do a lot of political interest talks and a lot of current events talks, and so they really are very, very aware of all the issues. I know they have many questions for you. I wanted to give you a couple more stats on us, just so you know. 40% of our clients rely on DED, the Department of Developmental Disabilities, to provide benefits for their basic needs, for rent, for food, for services. We provide, as you know, clinical services, day program services, vocational services, case management. We teach daily living skills, and so, you know, these are very, very important support services. Most of our clients are engaged in either part-time or full-time paid employment. And those that aren't in paid employment right now are volunteering their services at other nonprofits. So whether it's, you know, Daughters of Israel or Eyes for the Needy or several senior homes in town and Essex County, they're volunteering. So they're very, very active. 74% of our clients are very aware of how important health and wellness are, and so they participate in quite a few. We're, of course, a big participant in Special Olympics and athletics, and so they're very engaged in that. 15% of our clients rely on the Transitions Program, which, as you know, helps them move from high school through, and our young adults come here in June, primarily when they graduate from their programs. And so we're relieved for at least a dozen new ones to come in this June, which is really going to be wonderful. We do have several concerns. I just want to outline a couple for you. One is that we're very concerned about aging in place for our clients with special needs. There are very, very few programs in the Northeast that will help our clients. There's a lot of aging in place in senior care centers all over, but none of them specifically have staff trained to provide special for clients of special needs. So that's really a big issue for us. We have a huge economic impact in South Orange and Essex County. We contribute well over $3 million every year to businesses and landlords in South Orange and Essex County. So we really do have a stake and a voice here in this community. And I thought we would open it up to some questions now. Our clients have many, many questions for you. So
This question has to do with, are we going to get help with housing so we can stay here in the JESPY program? And my second question has to do with transportation to and from work, because a lot of the clients ride on that access lane, and we can be on there for 2 or more hours.
each one.
Each way?
Yep.
Each way.
Actually, Debbie has a term for what our clients call access lane.
Access stinks. I didn't invent it. One of the counselors came up with that.
Is that the county or is that
New Jersey Transit.
It's New Jersey Transit, Congressman, and it's been a real problem for our clients. They end up riding on that bus for quite a while, even if they're only 20 minutes away.
Yeah, and I take the tour in New Jersey.
So, okay, so they had people from different areas all over, and they pick you up in one bus and then take you all over?
Oh yeah, I've been on it where I live here in South Orange. I've gone up to Morris Plains or Cedar Knolls. Then they come back and they drive right past me and jump again. I've been on it where they wouldn't drop me off, and I'm like a minute away from my home.
Well, I mean, you know, I can definitely make an inquiry into, you know, why the service is taking people that far away from your destinations. They probably need to add, you know, a few more of the buses on those routes in order to cut that down. So, you know, I don't know if it's a budgetary problem or if really no one's just advocated and, you know, been there to question them about it. But I mean, I can raise the issue with them in the state level.
Right.
Thank you, because I feel if they had the technology that Lyft and Uber use, they could run more smoothly.
That's a great suggestion. I think what we need is the specifics, and we'll get them from Audrey, and that way we can together,
both, right.
yeah, put in a question about that and see what we can do. On the housing issue, I sit on the housing committee in the legislature, and I will tell you quite honestly, we have been more than frustrated for the past 7 years because we have not been able to move anything forward successfully. And so there's a lot of pent-up demand, and we're aware of it. And, you know, I promise you that I will continue to work on it, but when the person in the governor's office can veto anything that comes across his desk that he's not in favor of, it's very difficult. But we hope to change that.
Yeah, great, thank you. I just wanted to mention to both of you that we've been working very hard with the current mayor here in South Orange. She's been very, very helpful in, we hope, cross your fingers, helping us to secure a building from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund where we can add additional units.
Right.
It is only a drop in the bucket, but at least it's a drop, and so we're very grateful to her for that. So, yes, Lainey.
Hi, I'm Lainey Roebuck. I have a couple of questions. First of all, okay, I agree with Debbie. The traveling is real difficult in the housing. Okay, I've been here over 20 years, and JESPY and South Orange have been the best. Okay, I've known a lot of people around here, and it's just really hard to get around these places, and I would never move from here because I'm afraid of going to other places because of my handicap. I have a walker, as you can see. I know South Orange, I know Maplewood very well, so I'm not scared at all. The only thing I'm scared about is traveling. The access link does stink, but I use Uber now because of access link. And I wish access link would be better because it's cheaper. It's really cheaper for me to use. Thank you.
Mila, and I've been married for 18 years with my husband Dan, and he had a full-time job for over 20 years, it's almost 25 years. Now he is working part-time and not bringing home a lot of money, and I'm bringing home most of the money and paying the bills. He gets Social Security and Medicaid, which he recently got on. If Medicaid gets cut, it would be really hard on me and my husband because we rely on the Social Security and Medicaid. And I would like to know what would be done in that case, because I don't want to have to move to a different town with Section 8 housing. Because I'm comfortable here in South Orange, and I have, like Debbie and Lady said, we have a lot of friends here and we love it here.
Yeah, you know, the whole issue around healthcare and the new legislation that was just passed would definitely cut Medicaid, and you know, states even would no longer be able to consider schools eligible for Medicaid providers, which could really impact you know, communities negatively. But we are, you know, we are hoping that the Senate makes sure that Medicaid stays intact. The House bill would almost create it as a grant program, and each state would, you know, be left to its own devices to say how Medicaid was used, and we don't think that that is necessarily the best way to go. We feel that even though the states feel they have the rights, that, you know, it's the obligation of the federal government to make sure that these programs stay intact and make sure that people receive the dollars and the services that they have gotten to this point, and people just can't afford any more cuts. So we're hoping that the Senate bill will restore Medicaid back to its levels that in the past, as opposed to the cuts that are proposed. I mean, you know, $880 billion over 10 years is a lot of money to cut from that program. But we continue to fight to make sure that legislators and our colleagues understand that we cannot afford for people in our districts in our state to have those cuts. It just is would be negative and counterproductive to their quality of life. So we're going to continue to fight to make sure that those levels stay where they are.
And it helps us if you continue to advocate as well.
Oh, we
That's
are.
really important.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of our legislators, both on the federal and state level, are on notice. And we have to keep that pressure up. It can't be something that, all right, I went to a meeting or I went to a march and now I'm done. This is going to be a long fight.
We intend to keep up fighting.
4-year fight at least.
At least.
My question is for the Congressman. First off, I'd like to thank you for your vote against the new health care legislative.
I wouldn't be able to come in here if I didn't vote.
That's right.
Running me out of here on a rail.
Would you be able to explain to all of us here why it was important to keep Obamacare in place and not introduce this new health care from our president?
Sure. Well, one of the reasons I just stated, I mean, they're talking about cutting $880 billion over 10 years from the Medicaid program and send it to the states and let them do what they will. You know, the pre-existing condition, they continue to say that they are, you know, making sure it stays in place. But if you look at the bill, states have the right to opt out. and that'll let insurers raise their rates on people with pre-existing conditions, and that's what the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare as they call it, did not allow. And so a pregnant woman would not be able to get insurance because they consider that a pre-existing condition. And so, you know, it really would be detrimental to have this bill go forward. We didn't really get a chance to read very much of it because on Thursday we inquired before we left session, were there any, well, the Republicans said that that we could expect tomorrow to be in session because there potentially could be other legislation that we would vote on. And so the Democratic minority leader asked the gentleman to clarify, you know, we had heard that the medical bill was coming up. Is that the legislation he's talking about? And he went back to, well, members should just be on notice that we're voting tomorrow, and he would not say. I get home that night, 8 o'clock on TV, I turn on MSNBC, and I see the Majority Leader McCarthy coming downstairs at 8 o'clock saying we're voting on the medical bill tomorrow. We had just asked him 3 hours before that, were we going to vote on it? So, you know, they're playing a lot of games. It's 24 million people potentially will lose their health care if the new bill goes in. And, you know, that is just absolutely unacceptable. Did Obamacare, Affordable Care Act do everything we needed it to do? No, but it was a matter of taking the good parts of it. And if you look at the Republicans, they've taken all the good parts out of the Affordable Care Act and added it to their bill. Existing conditions, children staying on their parents, insurance till they're 26. You know, if Obamacare was so bad, why do you want those, you know, those in your bill? Because they know it's good. They know the American people want it, so they're pissed. They act like they came up with it, but it came out of Obamacare. You know, so you know, we're going to continue to fight because we know if this new bill comes through, insurance companies will get richer. There'll be less people with health care, and you know, that's unacceptable. Health care is a right in this country, and it should be. And we're going to continue to do what we can to fight it. So.
Hi, my name is Carly Eisenstein. I have a question. I have Medicare, and I guess I have my mom's dental insurance. I don't know what's going to happen with me being able to still have her dental insurance, or is anything going to happen with that? Like, will they like get rid of, will I have to get my own? Will they take it away from me, or?
I'm not sure, possibly. You know, I'd have to get a little more understanding about the bill, but you're on your mother's dental?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how it would impact you personally in terms of her dental. But in terms of the Medicare, you said Medicare or Medicaid?
Medicare.
Medicare. Yeah, we are working on, you know, like I said, trying to keep all of that in place. But I really specifically on the dental, I'm not sure. You know, if you give my my staff member here your information, we can try to look into it to see how, you know, it impacts you. Okay. All right?
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Mike Jaslow. I've been a part of JESPY for the past 10 years now. I have a question for both of you, actually. And it applies to the state level and the federal level as well. Have you guys had discussions with the Christie administration and the Trump administration about disabilities? Because if you look at, for instance, you go to their website, or most likely the whitehouse.gov, it says nothing about disabilities on there. I was just wondering if you could have you had discussions about emplacing certain safeguards against our communities and all that kind of stuff with people in his administration and the Christie administration?
Mila, do you want to take that?
We've had a lot of discussions in our committees and through legislation that's been proposed to not only protect our constituents with disabilities, but also to improve conditions, to improve the opportunities in school, pre-K all the way through 21, and it's been a battle.
So basically it falls on deaf ears of each administration? Not, yeah.
Not necessarily deaf ears, but
Yeah.
certainly not ears that are interested in
Listening.
doing the right thing, in my opinion.
Right.
But again, that's why the upcoming gubernatorial race is so important. And, you know, you've probably heard this before, but New Jersey and Virginia are the only two states that are electing governors this year. So we have a great opportunity here in New Jersey to send a message based on who we elect and what we do in terms of our legislature. The entire legislature is up for re-election or election.
And Congressman, do you ask any questions?
Yeah, we haven't had any discussions in terms of what you're talking about to this point, although my office knows that it is something that's very important to me in terms of the services and the quality of life for the clients here at JESPY House and that community. So it's something that, you know, I will continue to advocate for, but, you know, on the federal level, you know, like you said, you've gone to his website and seen nothing.
Right.
There's a lot of that going on with this administration. Nothing. And
Except damage.
big damage, right? But we will, you know, like I said, you know, when the time comes and we can have those discussions, I'm definitely, you know, advocating
Right.
for those.
You know, because it is important, you know, we don't want any kind of cuts or anything to anyone's funding, you know, in especially in this community and all that.
Well, and what I would add to that is another area that I find frightening is in the area of the education Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos,
Right.
because she's proposing to just eliminate special ed altogether, to not, to wipe out IDEA. And I mean, these are things that I can't even get my head around because they're so beyond who we are. And I think that this is the one encouraging thing that I see happening is the fact that meetings like this are going on all over the state. And people are paying attention and waking up and realizing that, wait a minute, all the things that I've been taking for granted and that I think are my rights and that I'm always going to have are being threatened. And so a meeting like this, I'm out several times a week because people are talking, not just talking about it, but acting on it by making their voices heard, by being advocates, by being informed, and by holding their representatives accountable for their votes.
And just to add to that, I got 10 people registered to vote here
Excellent.
in South Orange. Really fantastic.
Thank you, Michael. I wanted to tie into some of Mike's remarks because as a service provider, we are very concerned about state DDD issues. And the issue is that the cost of our services are only going to be reimbursed maybe 50% when Medicaid goes fee-for-service in July 1. And I'd like to put this to both of you. I'm not sure what you could do at the state level for us, but DDD has a calculation that is not going to help us cover our costs, and as service providers, we have a responsibility.
That's something that I am aware of, and I know that in the legislature there are a number of efforts to counter that. But again, You know, the governor of New Jersey is one of the most powerful governors in the country because he has line item veto power over the budget. We're fighting about the budget right now. That's been going on for a couple of months. We have to strike a budget by the end of June, otherwise the state government shuts down. And so this will be one of many battles that we'll continue to advocate for. I can't make any promises though.
Hi, my name is Brian Krantz. I'm a co-chair of the advocacy committee here. As my question goes for the both of you, and I already discussed this with you before we started here. What would you do to support making it easier for people like myself who were down the cracks basically for the assistance and everything like that?
You're in the gray zone, right?
In the gray zone, essentially. What would you do to help us advocate for easier access to rent assistance, to general assistance, anything like that, both on the state level and a federal level? So.
Well, for one thing, I think that one of the interesting things I learned when I first got to the legislature is that we deal with a lot of different issues, just as you do on the federal level, Congressman. And so I don't know how to explain this except to say that not every legislator, for example, is aware of situations like this, or your situation, or how a particular bill or veto affects individuals. And so one of the things that I've tried to do is not limit, but try to understand certain issues really well, but know who to go to for the answers for other issues. Not every legislator has the time, perhaps, or the interest in doing that, but I think it's important, because otherwise we tend to take votes that have impacts that we're not aware of. That's where you come in, because as advocates for yourselves, every group out there has a particular issue that's more important to them than anyone else, right? And so it's important to always speak up and to make sure, first of all, that you know who your representatives are, and make sure that your representatives know where you are on a particular issue. Right. So the fact that you're a co-chair for advocacy, that's fantastic. And we need more of that, not less. We need it among our senior citizens, we need it among parents, we need it all kinds of groups, okay? So I think in that area, there are some of us in the legislature that are paying attention, and knowing that we have you behind us will help us advocate for you.
Yeah, I really think the Assemblywoman answered the question. When I got to Washington, well, prior to going to Washington, I was president of the Newark City Council. And, I would tell people I might have to make 10 or 12 decisions a day, 5 that I could put off till tomorrow, and 3 that didn't have to deal with next week. When I got to Washington, it was 10 an hour. And it was really like drinking from a fire hose in the beginning. But what I did was I left my father's staff. I didn't hire anyone new. I was the only new person in my father's office. So everybody in the office knew what to do but me. So it allowed me really to hit the ground running with people that had experience and could point me in the right direction and tell me what to do. And, which was invaluable, and it really helped me be fairly successful in getting there. But to the Assemblywoman's point is right. You cannot be adept on every situation that's going on, every issue that's going on. You have, in my case, I'm fortunate they give us large staffs. So there is a person in my office that has 2 or 3 things that they're specifically following every single day. Like, I didn't get a chance to read the health care bill right away, but my health staff person had read the bill and could inform me on what was in it, what the leadership was saying about it, and what was going on. So we can't be the expert in every issue. We know what's going on and we understand what issues are out there. And as she said, we become adept in certain areas, like Homeland Security is one of my areas. And now transportation and infrastructure, I just joined that committee, which is going to become one of my areas. So, but my healthcare work in advocacy for you, autism, I'm a national spokesperson for colorectal cancer. You know, we still have things that are issues that are important to us, but not necessarily where we are dealing with them every single day, but are there when we're needed. So we understand what you need, and we're two people that support your efforts. You may not see us on it every single day, but when we need to be there, we're going to be there in support of your issues.
Thank you.
Hi. In relation to what Brian said and what Mike said, I've been at JESPY for 15 years, 15, 16, give or take. And like a lot of the others, I'm very happy here. And this place has helped me make a lot of friends over the years and be very independent. And I'm worried about the JESPY itself staying open because of funding directly to JESPY, and also personal funding for rent assistance and to pay my fees to be a client at JESPY. So I'm kind of not saying anything new, but I'm kind of personally advocating for what they already said.
Okay.
So.
And you're worried about what you
Very
might
worried.
lose? Okay.
Very worried, because if I have to leave JESPY, it's going to be a complete nightmare. I don't know where I would go. You know, it's a scary thought. I'm very successful here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Bandelauer. We are worried about the DDD changes to free-for service, and we don't want to lose our DDD money or whatever. What's got to happen about that? And or we should be worried about that.
I wish I had a, you know, what do you call those things? Crystal ball, right, but I don't. I'm well aware of the threats being made there, and I can promise you that my colleagues, most of them, will fight to keep them intact. But the issue has more to do with what the governor does.
And also, I've been with DDD for the longest time, and I just don't know what I'm going to do after it changes. Because it's supposedly changed July 1st,
Yeah.
that I've been hearing.
Yeah, that's the beginning of the new fiscal year. Yes.
And I'm worried that once that goes over, that I won't have money to pay for my rent, plus I'm on the housing thing, but I'm worried about more food, for how to pay for food and clothing after that takes effect.
Understood. And you know what, I'll stay in touch with Audrey in terms of how we're doing with keeping them in place, keeping it in place.
Okay, thank you.
We're also, you know, coming to the end of the Christie administration.
Right.
And you know, if things work out the way we'd like to see them, we will have somebody who is a bit more compassionate, understanding, and willing to listen to us around these issues. And I think will make a great difference to what we've been subject to over the last 7.5 years. So, you know, let's just try to make it through the final months of this storm, and hopefully there's a brighter, you know, day coming with the change in administration. So.
Hi, my name is Ollie Gershman. I've been in JESPY since 2007, and I have 2 questions. Now, what we were talking about JESPY House, want to keep, and I'm like one of the DDD clients, and I'm a little bit worried about me being in JESPY. So my question is there any new changes? Is there any new info that we need to know?
Not yet, but as I said, I will stay in touch with Audrey, and as changes occur, as information comes forward, I'll make sure that she has it and can share it with you.
And my second question, I know we were talking about Access Link earlier. Is there a way to ban Access Link?
I think you guys are getting the message. It's
Not sure if we can ban them, but we can try to see if we can make them do a little better in terms of their service, or try to understand why so many residents have issues with their service. So.
Yeah, because I had a lot of issues in the past. Like there's a lot of major stuff because I used to wake up like 4 o'clock in the morning for like going to work, and that was like my mom's old school, and they've been going to around New Jersey, and it's always affecting me a lot of times.
Okay.
You know, the other helpful thing would be is we're trying to get a meeting with them so that they could come here and we could voice our opinion.
We might be able to work
That we should be able to
We
do.
haven't been able to get through to even have them here, so our clients could.
Okay.
All right. Let's tell them why.
Hello, my name is Dave Snitzer, and I've been with JESPY House for almost 28 years. This October will be 28 years. My concern is also, I'm a DDD client as well, and I have been turned down by Access Link twice. I don't remember how long ago it was, but I was like beside myself for trying to go for it again, because it's just been so hard for me because they think I'm so independent and whatnot that they don't even see me as a disability person. So I don't know I don't know if I'm going to be losing my funding or to try to go for Access Link again for a 3rd time. And I'm afraid to be denied again.
Did they give you a reason for being denied?
No.
Okay, so I have it here, I'm underlining it, meeting with Access Link.
Right.
Between the 2 of us, we should be able to get that.
And you said David?
Yes.
David, yeah.
So if you could get a letter to my office from David stating, you know, he's been turned down for Access Link several times, that gives me the right to make the inquiry because a constituent has contacted me. So then I can ask New Jersey Transit, you know, why, you know, they need to explain to me why he was turned down, whether it was a legitimate reason or not. So,
That would be great.
so if you get that to my office,
my trusty friend here. He's gotten so good, I just turned and looked at him. He knows I want a business card. So you can contact him, and so make sure that we get that letter on top and doesn't go in the pile and take some time to.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'm hoping I don't lose my DDD money as well, so that's
Yes.
what I'm really hoping as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Helen Engel, and I am here on behalf of my son Harris, who could not tear himself away from The Voice tonight. Sorry, but
Priorities.
priorities. And I want to first of all thank you, because I know in all the years that I've been a parent mentor for families with children that are in the education process and IEP process, and I know you've been a huge supporter and a huge advocate for all of them. And I just want to kind of lay out what, on behalf of my son, what his concerns are. First and foremost, he asks on a daily basis, when can I live in South Orange, when can I live at JESPY?
He lives at home with you?
He lives at home with me, as do a number of young adults that I know, because the new funding is kind of, for those who prefer to live at home. Well, no, they don't prefer to live at home, they're forced to live at home. So that's number one. Number two, it seems as though when the Christie administration had decided that they were not taking advantage of all of the Medicaid funding that they should have been, and that's very important, because yes, they should have been taking advantage of it, but they decided to completely divest themselves of any responsibility in the funding process at all and rely solely on Medicaid funding and other funding sources. So my son, who would like to live in South Orange, there is no DDD funding for him to do so, and what they have implemented is a temporary bridge program that would enable him to go on DDD temporary funding for a year, but he would have to apply for Section 8 housing and have fair market value housing. Now, there is no fair market value housing in South Orange. The same thing is true for all of these folks who are on DDD funding. They are currently in a bridge program where they are giving them X amount of years to go find fair market value funding, fair market value housing, and that just doesn't exist here. So they could live in East Orange, they could live in Newark, they could live in Irvington, but they won't have the services that they need, that they have told you that they, so eloquently, all of you who have spoken tonight, thank you, who have told you that they want to be here, they want to be centered here. This is their lives. This is how they thrive. This is a model that should happen everywhere in the state, where there are centers that can support the independence that these people have been able to gain by being associated with JESPY. Right. And the state should not give up their responsibility of contributing to the funding. They should embrace the Medicaid funds, but there are other needs that these adults have that cannot be, that don't fit into the Medicaid framework, that are going to go away. And that's I think where we need to look at why this is all happening. And I think that is where it comes from.
And I think we would be in violent agreement with you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pat Barberi. I'm not sure if many of you know me, but I have my client Sal Cangelosi over here. There you are, Sal. But from what I've seen over here, because I've been here for at least the past 5 to 6 months, because his mom has brought him here, she wants him to have like a day program for him. as well to do activities, to play music. And I see nothing but kind, generous kids. Everyone here is kind and generous. They help each other. But one thing that concerns me most is, what happens when everything's gone? Because I know that deep they're also affecting me too, because I've been in the caretaking business for approximately like 10 plus years, like very, very long time. But, all I also want to say is keep just fighting, don't let the deep take everything away from them, and keep strong, guys, all right?
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Jackie Herships. I'm a resident of South Orange, and I have 3 pre-existing conditions. Only three. Well, probably more, but the ones that come to mind, I'm a woman. I'm a cancer survivor, and I'm a senior citizen. So I'm very aware that 3 strikes and you're out is kind of a catchphrase of our culture, but I'm not out yet. And I want to say that in listening to you all, the fact that you have this advocacy thing going on is just brilliant. As you develop that, I think for a time, in this case anyway, disabilities will work in your favor. The more people see you, the residents here, the people who work with you, the more you will build a sympathetic base and a powerful reaction to your cause. I would suggest thinking about holding press conferences, for example. You would have a lot of draw. And for some of the local issues, I don't know, have you worked with the local jitneys in town? Maybe they could help you with the transportation issues. But anyway, the idea of press conferences, and I could imagine busloads of people, although it would be hard to do, I'm sure, going down to official and meeting them, meeting the lion in the lair, and having a lot of photographers along as you do it would make a big impact. So with that, I just want to say that this is an amazing program. I was so glad to be here, to be able to hear all of you speak, and thank you, Congressman Payne and Assemblywoman JC, for being here.
Thank you. I feel like it's always helpful when we can put faces to issues. It's much more powerful. And I appreciate your coming this evening and sharing something so personal with us. Appreciate that.
Thank you for all you've done for us. And here's 2 pictures that we are donating.
Tell us a little bit about your photo.
Tell us about the photo.
Yeah, Sean took the photo. And that's Floods Hill in South Orange, so that you guys can remember us. Get Sean.
Thank you.
I've actually taken both those pictures in South Orange myself.
Thank you. That's beautiful. I don't know about the Congressman, but I love clouds, and last night we had a beautiful, beautiful sky, and this is absolutely gorgeous. I will definitely hang this in my house or my
We'll stay for a little bit and meet everybody and meet and greet personally. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you. Thank you all.